Hi, and welcome to another tutorial video from Jennifer Miner. That's me, and my blog is jenniferminer.com. Today I'll be sharing with you the process to create this super cute, distressed, kind of grungy baby boy card. So I've gone ahead already and cut my 5 strips of paper that I'm going to use for the basis of this card. I've got 2 here in Very Vanilla, and then 3 of these I have cut from a retired color from Stampin' Up! Called Cool Caribbean. There are a lot of different colors out there, but this just happens to be what I had on hand. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and use Vintage Photo and then my circular ink blending tool. So let's go ahead and get started. I am working, as an aside, just on this, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started inking, rubbing my ink on from the side. Gathered Twigs Distress ink, and I'm just going to ink the very edge of this with a tiny bit of that color kind of creeping in. You'll notice that when I did the Vintage Photo, I worked with the paper on the craft mat, so you can kind of pull that color deeper into the piece of paper itself. For an edging technique, I'm going to go ahead and pick this up, work with it off the paper. This way I am really focusing my ink on the edge of the paper, and then, as I said, just kind of creeping it over a little bit. And my first step is going to be to ink up that stamp. Make sure I get some good coverage. Press and hold just a little bit, allowing that ink time to absorb into the paper. I'm going to repeat that on the other side. What I want to do, I'm going to use another texture stamp, this one again from BoBunny. It's kind of hard to see here, so I'll show you on the sheet that came with it, these little scratches. And this is from the BoBunny Stain Texture Stamp Set. Really super like these. For this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and use the Antique Linen Distress ink. Go ahead and ink up my stamp. And I really just kind of want, again, going for that lots of depth, aging look, and I really like the look of these pretty simple distressed scratches on there. I've got one. I'm going to use Versamark watercolor ink. Sometimes I forget, when I use it so much for embossing and things like that, that I totally forget that this is actually one of the main things that this particular product does, is create watermark images. Just kind of stamping down these in a random manner. Okay. Okay, so now my next step is going to be to go ahead and add these strips to my background, to a piece of background cardstock. And for this one, I know I cut these individual strips at 3/4 of an inch, and this is going to be ever so slightly larger than that, but that way I can get it trimmed off, and it's a little easier way for me to make that more accurate. I'm Just use my Tim Holtz ruler here to find the general center, basic center of my page. Mark that. And then start with my center panel. And as I do on most of my cards, if I'm using a tape runner, I'm using my ATG gun here. Go ahead and adhere this panel. All right, now go ahead. Okay, now I'm back from my paper trimmer, excuse me. What I want to go ahead and do, I'm going to just add a little more gathered twigs to kind of fine tune the way that my background looks. Two labels for my sentiment using the Spellbinders number 4 die, and I use an Epic 6, which I really like the Genius platform with that. So I just need to distress these two and we will be ready to add the sentiment. So doing was taking the word baby from Paper Tray Inks Mega Mixed Messages. Sorry, I had to think about that there. And then this top sentiment, this welcome, is actually a waltzing mouse stamp set called Fancy Phrases. And you can see I've just stuck them on my little block where I wanted them. And I think they work great. The fonts are similar enough that they look like they could go together. So this stamp sentiment, I am going to use my Distress ink and a ground espresso and just ink that up. And place that down. Again, give it a moment to let the ink absorb. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got that on, and I want to go ahead and adhere my panels together before I do my next step, which will be to add some Darling Silver brads. So these brads are from Creative Impressions, which I bought a bag of 1,000 brads, and they had an open house at their warehouse years ago, and the woman who checked me out was just absolutely certain that I did not understand how many brads I was actually purchasing, and she asked me at least 3 times, are you sure this is 1,000 brads? And maybe I didn't really understand, because we still have them. I use them all the time, but I'm thrilled to have those, and I am glad that I bought 1,000 brads. So now that I have my sentiment done, I've got my paper background pieced together. What I want to do is go ahead and add this beautiful flourish stamp, which comes from the Tim Holtz French Market stamp set. I love that particular image. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm actually going to measure something ahead of time for this card to kind of indicate where I want, where the center is, and where the edge of my label will be. So I'm just marking with a pencil where I want that to go. Again, I'm going to use the ground espresso. Also throw the lid on the floor. So go ahead and ink up my label really well. And then I know I kind of want that point to stick out a little further. Line it up and stamp. And then I'm going to repeat the same on the upper flourish. Kind of coming. This one I've decided, versus the sample image that I showed you earlier, I kind of want this to show a little more of the flourish. So I'm kind of pushing that a little further out than I originally did. I'm going to go ahead and add my ribbon. So this ribbon is one I've salvaged off a package, a present. So I have family that uses absolutely the highest quality of ribbon, and when they're smaller pieces, I find that I don't use them to wrap packages again, but they're perfect for this application. So that large grosgrain ribbon is salvaged from a package, and then I'm going to add this absolutely beautiful velvet light blue ribbon from American Crafts. Came on a spool with 5 different ribbon from the same family, color family. And add a little bit of ATG to the back. And then add this. And then next I'm going to go ahead and just adhere this to that final. This is chocolate cardstock from Yours Truly, which was an Archiver's House brand. Okay, so now we have our background done, we've got it mounted, we have all of our stamping done, our ribbon added. Now our last step will be to add our sentiment. For this particular project, I'm going to go ahead and just use regular old pop dots. Press it down, and then we are just about done. My last step, I'm going to add a couple of little gems to this card. I'm going to go ahead and use, these happen to be from Teresa Collins, and I'm using my quick stick picker-upper or quick pick or whatever. These all are called a whole bunch of different things. I think this is a very special, really fun, unique baby card to send to someone. Easily replicatable. If you have these stamps or other ones similar, you can absolutely do this. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I will have a materials list at the very end of this video, or also on my blog at jenniferminer.com.